Hello and welcome to today's KDP University's At Home with Christina Benjamin. I'm Trisha, and for the past 5 years, I've moved around Amazon's books teams, learning about the business so I can share it with authors. But we're here to talk to Christina Benjamin. Best known for her best-selling young adult romance series, the Prep School Boyfriend Academy series, and the How to Date a Tomboy series, Christina proves that book boyfriends are like chocolate. You can never have enough. Christina lives in Florida with her husband and character-inspiring pets. But when she's not eating chocolate and dreaming up book boyfriends for you to devour, Christina is on the go. Whether by car, boat, or train, she can't curb her wanderlust for long. This traveling author loves to read and write on the road, where much of her inspiration comes from. For even more epic reading, don't miss her YA fantasy series under pen name CJ Benjamin, including Geneva Summers and The Quest for Truth, multiple award winner that has stolen the hearts of young adult readers everywhere. Welcome, Christina. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great.
Good. So are you getting much travel in right now? I know that everybody's travel's kind of been halted. So are you getting out and about a bit?
We are starting to ramp up actually this month. We have a lot of fun travel coming up. It's a little bit writing research, a little bit visiting family that we haven't been able to see in a while. So I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that because I know that it's been hard on all of us.
Yeah.
All right. So we saw in the intro that you have the two pen names, Christina Benjamin and CJ Benjamin, and those are young adult, right? So that's the genre you primarily write in?
hmm
Okay. But you also have another pen name and you write in another genre too. What's that?
Yeah, so I have a third pen name. I guess I like to wear a lot of hats. That is Bella Knight, and I write paranormal romance under that pen name. Because I guess I'm the type of writer, like I am reader, I really like to read everything. So
Right.
that makes me want to write in that genre when I'm reading about it. Um, and I also kind of have this rule, like if I'm writing young adult contemporary, I don't want to read any of it because I don't want that to, translate into my own writing. So I'll read a completely different genre. But then when I'm done with something like paranormal romance, reading that because I'm writing something completely different, I'm like, ooh, that sparked ideas. I want to write in that genre now. So that's kind of how I ended up with so many different pen names and so many different genres because I'm someone who loves to read any good story in any genre.
Mhm.
So I guess that turned me into a writer of all genres.
Nice. So why did you started with young adult though, right?
Yes. My first
So why
series
did you?
was the Geneva Summer series. And that was more young adult fantasy, very
Mhm.
targeted towards like the Harry Potter readers. And when I finished that series, it's a 5 book series. It took me about a year a book. And when I was done, I was like, oh my gosh, what now? And my husband, who's my publishing partner, he said, you just need a palate cleanser, do something completely different.
Mhm.
So that's when I wrote The Practice Boyfriend. And that one we just like published because I'd written it and I thought, why not? It's fun, it's completely different. And it just took off. So I was like, okay, well, this is the direction I need to follow. So I started writing a lot more in that genre. And after a couple books, I think maybe like 5 or 6 into the Boyfriend series, we decided that we needed to come up with the pen name and split, the young adult fantasy into CJ Benjamin and
Mhm.
leave the contemporary YA books in Christina Benjamin because we didn't want to be targeting the wrong readers, like cross-pollinating that way. It affects your also bots, in my opinion, because not all readers will read any genre or anything by a certain author. Some will,
Right.
but I didn't want to be sending like my teen pop Gossip Girl style books to my Harry Potter fantasy readers because they're not going to click on those links. And that's like diluting just your information about what's successful and what ads are working.
Hmm. Good. So a business decision
Yes.
versus a creative one. But where's your heart? Like as far as what you really truly are passionate about writing, do you have one genre that you prefer over the other?
I think it's always going to be young adult. Um, Not just because it's my bread and butter, like it seems to be what I'm more known for and it sells really well, but it's just my favorite genre to read and write. And I love that it's something that everyone can relate to. It's either you're
Hmm.
going through it, you can remember that period of your life, and it's pretty nostalgic. It's also, the beginning of everything. And it's
Hmm.
when your life is starting and when you have all these possibilities before you. And as a writer, that's just great because it gives you almost limitless possibilities. And
Right.
those young characters, everything is so urgent and life or death with them. And so, that's really powerful emotion to write with. And it's funny, I think as the reader, we look back and think like how simple it was back then. And we wish that that's all we had to worry about. So it's all about perspective. And so that's why I feel like readers of any age can enjoy it. So even though
Mhm.
it is young adult genre, it's not just for young adult readers. So I just love it. It's really fun.
Good. So do you find that you're following your author following as it's built up? Is it a wide mix of age ranges?
Yeah, it really is. It surprised me. Also that it's men and women because I feel like I try to really write strong female characters. My
Mhm.
books are very female driven. So it's great when I find males that are actually reading it and enjoying it. And I started with a lot of young readers, I think, because I started with that YA fantasy. So I have,
Mhm.
all the way down to 10-year-olds that are just devouring these epic fantasy novels. And it's kind of cool because they can grow up with my books because
Mhm.
I was going and speaking to fourth and fifth grade classes when I first started this in 2012, 2013. And now they're so much older and they're reading my other books and it's just really cool. But yeah, I have readers all the way up into their 80s. So it's really cool to have a large reader base like that. It's a cool demographic.
Mhm. Does that bring out any marketing or advertising challenges for you? I would think that the different age groups may need different ways of you communicating, right? Communication styles.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the most of my ads, we focus a lot on the AMS ads. We
Mhm.
use programs like Press Design to kind of help us optimize that and tell us which ones are the most successful. We use a lot of other social media ads. It's a lot of trial and error because sometimes what I think is going to work, maybe that appeals to me, but not other people. So we do a variety of ads and just a variety of platforms because some people aren't using social media to purchase
Mhm.
their books or shop for books. So I've really done a lot of focus on my newsletter. Recently, when I first started, I did it and then I kind of let it trail off because I was like, oh my gosh, how many things can I juggle? But I've learned that it is really important and I actually enjoy doing it now because it's more like just communicating with people that love my books and you're
Mhm.
talking to people that have actually read them so you can have conversations with them like that you can't have with people in the outside world because they know these imaginary characters you've made up. So that has been something I've really come to enjoy and get a lot back from. And I think it's a great way to reach other readers that maybe aren't seeing ads in other places.
Gotcha. Now, with this younger demographic with social media, they're on different social media channels. There's a lot of authors that talk a lot about Facebook and Twitter, but
Hmm.
the younger audience isn't necessarily on Facebook and Twitter anymore. They're more Instagram and TikTok. So, are you diversified across all of those social media platforms?
I try. Instagram's probably my favorite. I'm just a very
Mhm.
visual, creative person. I've spent a lot of time curating my Instagram, which is more than just books because I feel like I love so many other authors and I want to know more about them. So I try to just, every other post, like one's about me and the next is about a book.
Mhm.
So I try to make it real and authentic that way. And I love Instagram stories because I get on there every day. That is my goal, just to say, hey, tell you what I'm up to, what my work in progress is. I'll promote other books that I love, like, hey, this book is 99 cents today. I think you'll like it because
Mhm.
you liked one of mine. So that is probably the one that I love the most and spend the most time with. I know I should be on TikTok, but I have not figured that one out yet.
It's challenging. I'm slowly trying to figure that out. My youngest child, my daughter, who's about 20, is schooling me in the art of TikTok. I'm still not getting it, but
Okay, well, you'll have to teach me when you figure it out.
there you go. We'll pass on the knowledge. So you talked about promoting other books or talking about what you're reading, I take it, or is it something where you're doing cross promotion with other authors?
I do that a lot in my newsletters, in my newsletter
Mhm.
swaps. I try to swap 3 books a week because I have my newsletter go out every week. And that was something I learned probably not until like a year or two ago. I didn't know authors were all talking and swapping each other's books, but I was like, well, what a brilliant idea. So I learned that actually at the NINC conference.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm a huge advocate of going to these writer conferences, because you just are exposed to so many more things, because I think we get stuck in our bubble of what we know and what works, but there's just
Mhm.
so much more out there. And that's what I love about being an indie author is you can chat with other indie authors and they're so willing to help you and tell you what's working in their genre, and you can just quick make a change and try it. Maybe it will work for you, maybe it won't. And I think that's what's so cool about the community, because sharing what works for you is never going to hurt you because you're helping someone else. You know, like their sales aren't
Mhm.
taking away from yours, because readers are just going to keep buying books. So that's what
Right.
I love about the community. It's very gracious and helpful, and there's always new things coming out every year. So I love going to conferences and learning what other people are doing, networking with other authors. And I've made really great friendships beyond just being an author friend going to those. So that's kind of how I got started with the newsletter swap. So I'll just share other people's books in my newsletter, and I always
Mhm.
try to make sure it's curated towards what my readers are going to like, because I write mostly clean and sweet. So I'm not going to
Mhm.
put any erotica or paranormal in
Right.
my clean and sweet newsletters and things like that. So I am very conscious about that. But it's fun getting to see what other readers are doing or other authors are doing and sharing that with my readers.
So do you have a newsletter for each of your pen names?
I do, and that's been challenging because
Right.
not
I
only
would
am I
think
trying
so.
to write a book every day, I'm trying to juggle newsletters as well. So my Christina Benjamin, that's where I have the primary amount of my books published. So that's the
Mhm.
newsletter that I send out every week. My Bella Knight is more like every other week,
Mhm.
and my CJ Benjamin is more like once a month, because there's only 5 books in that series, and for now, maybe not forever, they're kind of done. So until I have something new, I really just share other cool books that I think the readers will enjoy, group promotions, really cool freebies, and I utilize my Kindle countdown deals. So whenever I'm
Mhm.
running a deal or offering one of the books for free, I make sure I put that up in there for my readers to find.
Gotcha. Um, so let's talk a little bit about how you manage the day. So you've got three pen names, and how many books do you publish a year?
Gosh, I always tell myself I'm going to slow down because I've been doing about 12 or more a year. So that's a book or more a month, and that's kind of insane. But I love
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's my passion, and getting to do what you love for a living, I mean, it's priceless. There's nothing else like it. And that's the other thing I love about being indie is you get to be a writer on your own time on what works for
Mhm.
you. And so I get to work from home. My husband works from home. So we're spending our time together, still doing what we
Mhm.
love. And you can do it on the road while you travel. And I get so much inspiration from that. Um, but yeah, this year I was like, okay, I'm only going to do 6 books. But somehow I did, I think, 13 again. I have a lot coming out at the end of the year because I wanted to do a Christmas novel. I ended up doing 2, and then I offered one of my previously written ones to charity box set. So I had 3 Christmas stories that are all coming out very shortly. Actually, one came out yesterday. because you have a very short window for that, so they kind of all are grouped together between October and November. But my normal writing day is, I say, butt in chair. Like, you have to be in your writing room every single day. And I try to write just from 11 to 5. And my goal
Mhm.
is at least 5,000 words a day. Because if I don't stay on track, there's no way I'm going to get that many books out. And that's kind of the other hard part, is you're your own boss. So if
Right.
you don't set goals for yourself, no one else is going to. So I've had to be very strict with that, to the point where I got rid of one of the guest bedrooms in my house, and that's where I am now. This is my writing room. And so when I'm in here, I do nothing but writing. I just trained myself, like, this is not where you pay the bills or you surf on the internet or shop online. You sit here and you write. So that has definitely made a difference for me.
Do you have a time, like there are some authors where they start writing at 7 a.m. and they do not stop writing until they get those 5,000 words in, or however many words. Is that kind of the situation with you?
I will stop by 5 o'clock every day, like, unless I'm, super, super close to finishing up something I need to get done. I try to be done at 5 every day to have a more normal schedule so that I can actually be on the same schedule as the rest of the world. Because I don't know if it's just writers, but I'm like a writer vampire. I would rather sleep in, and I feel like I'm more creative in the evening and write into the wee
Mhm.
hours in the morning. Like, if I go on a writing retreat where I'm just, holed away in a place for 5 days, that is what my schedule will turn to. And that is, I know when I'm most productive because I'm getting 10 to 13,000 words a day rather than 5,000. So I've put a lot of time and effort into tracking that, because
Mhm.
I took a course at a conference that was, find out when you work the best so that you're working
Mhm.
smarter instead of harder. Because if you're not awake and creative in the morning, why force it? So I've kind of learned that
Right.
11 to 5 is a sweet spot where I can get a lot done. Maybe it's not my most productive, but it still allows me to, like, enjoy society and visit with friends and my husband. So I've made that work.
Good. Now, your husband, you've mentioned that your business partner, right? So he does he handle all the business aspect of it and you get to focus on writing, or is
Yeah,
that a
I
shared
think
task?
I think I lucked out. I got, like, the fun part of it. I just get to create the worlds and he has to market them. He has a background in graphic design and marketing. That's what he does for a living. And
Mhm.
he's actually the one that is credited with writing being my career, because I wrote my first book kind of for me. And I was never going to tell anyone about it because I was like, what if I don't finish it? What if it sucks? I don't know how to take it from my laptop to the next step. But eventually I
Mhm.
did tell him, and he went on KDP, I think it was Create Space back then, and
It was, yeah.
did the book without even telling me. Like, it was only I had read it and edited it. It was just not its best. But if he hadn't done that, I mean, when the book shipped to our house and I actually got to hold the paperback of it, I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this is what I want to do. And then we polished it and made it the version that it is today. And he
Mhm.
again went and submitted it to the London Book Festival, and
Mhm.
it won an award for that. And so then that was, like, kind of one of my aha moments, like, okay, it's not just friends and family telling me that, like, I can do this. It's the reader
Mhm.
community saying that they value it, they're getting joy out of it. And if it's bringing me joy, like, why not do that for a living? So yeah, he's definitely credited with a lot of that, a lot of the success of my books. He does all the covers. He does all the
Mhm.
marketing. Like I said, we use Press Design, AMS ads. Um, what's the other? Oh, Publishing Rocket. So he's always listening to those author podcasts. 20 bucks to 50K, and has learned a lot that way. And it's great because he kind
Uh-huh.
of filters out the things that he doesn't think is going to work and brings me the good ones, and we kind of, like, work on them together and see what fits best for my books.
Oh, good. It's amazing that you have that synergy and allows you to focus on what you're passionate about. And sounds like he gets to focus on what he's passionate about, and it works.
Yeah, it's really fun getting to work together.
Good. So let's focus just on the marketing for just a little bit because I know that the authors are prospective authors that are joining us today are always really interested in that. So can you walk me through what marketing a release? You've got a book that released yesterday and some that are coming up. So what does that look like? What do those book releases look like?
So we're a pretty well-oiled machine at this point because my goal was 40 books by 40, and we've surpassed that. And there's definitely, I'm sure, more things to learn. I'm really bummed I didn't get to do conferences because I think I always add new things to my release trials and when I do that. But I think what we've boiled it down to is we pretty much always do a pre-order. And I don't do the cover release until I have a pre-order link to share, because I've found that cover reveals and cover releases like really get your readers and even people that haven't read your books before to click. And if you don't have that link for them to click on, that's kind of a loss of momentum. So that's something we really dial in on. We'll start ramping up ads once we have a pre-order link, and we start slow and kind of build towards the release. I always make sure I have it going out in my newsletter. I'll share excerpts, do fun giveaways, things like that to try to build a little bit of excitement for it. We always will start scheduling promos as soon as you have the pre-order. It's different, I think, for every book. Sometimes I do a longer pre-order to schedule more promotions because sometimes you need a bit of lead time to get into the ones you want to. And sometimes it's pretty quick, just because I've tried both ways, because I know that there's schools of thoughts of, just drop it, don't do a pre-order, or do a short pre-order, or do a long pre-order. And I've tried it all, and it always seems that my sales end up the same, whether it's a 99 cents release or $2.99. It all kind of stacks up to the same because you have that same reader base and that same reach. So it's been cool to kind of try different things. The other things we do for releases is I have a beta team, so I always get them advanced copies to try to get early reviews up. And yeah, then we just usually do some sort of launch party, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, just to kind of celebrate, because even after this many books, each one I feel like is a big accomplishment, so you have to celebrate.
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about the team that helps you as well. So outside of your husband, do you have other members of your team? Usually, maybe it's a editor or.
Yeah, I have a group of editors I've been using for a while, people that help me proofread. Like I said, I have an ARC team. They're really the ones that just read the books, and will make sure they get an early review up there for me. And then before they even get it, I have a beta team. It's a much smaller group of about 10 to 12 readers that have almost been with me since day one, and they just love being part of the team. So they help catch just little last minute proofreading errors that maybe the editing team didn't catch. And something I started, I think last year, was a Facebook group. It's called Words and Wine with Christina Benjamin, because I'm always drinking a glass of wine while I'm writing. And I invite them to come be part of the writing process with me. So it's where I really talk in depth about my current work in progress. And right now that is, it's a small town Southern romance. So I will post in the group and say, okay, what do you think I should name this restaurant? It's in this setting. This is what it looks like in my head. And it's great because I'll get like 50 amazing ideas. And sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't, but they just love being part of that process. And I love having those people kind of championing you doing it, because writing can be super solitary. It's just you and your thoughts. So it's really cool to invite other people in and help with that process.
So how do you balance that? Obviously, you want your readers involved, and you're talking about your Facebook and getting them involved. How much of that do you actually fit? Oh, let me organize my thoughts here. I think my mouth is moving too quickly. My brain can't catch up. But how do you determine how much of their input you actually do put in the final version of the book? How do you balance what they want versus what you think needs to be in there?
Yeah, so I think I always make sure I have the first draft completely done before I invite people in, because that's a good point. You don't want to lose your voice by inviting too many other people in to contribute. So I've already have the story completely done through the first draft, and I always do 3. The second draft is like where I layer in more setting, and the third
Mhm.
draft is where I'm polishing things up and really defining the characters. So the second draft is really where I'm inviting people, like, I've learned you got to keep writing. So if you can't think of a name of a restaurant, I will write blank and just keep going. So then at the second draft,
Okay.
I search for all my blanks, and I'm like, okay, I need a name for a restaurant. I need a name for this dog. And that's when you invite people in, because they're just contributing like little fun things that if it
Mhm.
makes it in and they're reading it, they're like, oh my gosh, I was part of this. And that's so cool. As a reader, I would love to do that. So
Mhm.
it's just like a contribution as opposed to changing the course or tone or voice of the story.
Gotcha. So speaking of the 3 drafts, are you a pantser or a plotter?
I have become a plotter. I started as a pantser. I think my personality is a little bit of both. Um, I'm just very organized, and it was weird because when I started writing, I wasn't. And I think that's what I loved about it. It's so freeing. When you write that first draft, it's almost like you're a reader if you're pantsing
Mhm.
it, because you're reading it as you're writing it. And you're like, oh, that's cool. All right, I'm going to go down that road. And that's really great if you're writing a standalone or the first book in a series. But I learned the hard
Mhm.
way because I wrote this epic 5-book fantasy series with massive world building, and I didn't know I should have had a character Bible, because by book 4, you're like, wait, who was that? And what can he
Mhm.
do? What magic powers? What color eyes? So I kind of learned that if I was going to keep doing that style of series, I needed to make life a little easier for myself. So I've started plotting, and now I'll do almost like a 10,000 word outline, and I
Mhm.
break it down into chapters. I do a lot of dual point of view, so I'll write from like the male and the female. So I'll break it down into maybe 10 chapters in the outline, which I know is going to divide into 20 chapters because I have 2
Mhm.
voices. Um, so it makes it so much easier when you sit down to write, because you're like, okay, chapter 1, this is what's going to happen, and you kind of get to pants it there, but you know what direction you're going. So yeah, I definitely plot now, and I highly recommend it.
So let's go back to, you referred to a character Bible. I don't think that's something that we've talked to any of the other authors about. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so now when I start my outline, I I'm very structured. I'll just say the name of the book. I'll write the summary, which is like a rough draft of what's going to be on the jacket or on the Amazon page. And then I will even do taglines, what genres I think it fits in, and then I'll start character Bible. So I will write down every character I think is going to be in the story, starting with the main characters. I'll just do a lot of characteristics like their age, descriptions of what they look like. Usually I keep adding to it as I'm writing, because sometimes I'll
Mhm.
need a character I didn't know from the beginning. And as you start bringing them to life, you can kind of see them in a more well-rounded 3D way. And I like to think of it as, my own friends. Like, certain people have certain catchphrases or things that they always say. So I try to do that with my characters, because I think that brings them to life off the page. And
Mhm.
then you can just read, like, a character will say something like, okay, dude, and it's so and so, because he's the only one in the book that says dude all the time. And that way you don't
Right.
have to put that dialogue tag, like he said, she said, or whichever the character name is. And
Mhm.
dialogue's my favorite thing to write. So I really spend a lot of time developing the characters in the Bible. And sometimes you think a book is only going to be a one off, and maybe it's
Mhm.
successful and you decide you're going to go back, or you just had way more story than you thought. So it's really handy to have that to go back and jog your memory, because maybe you don't do it for a year or two. And when you
Mhm.
have more than 40 books, it's crazy. I think my readers know them better than I do, because they'll be asking me questions and I'm like, wait, so when did I write that one? Which book are we talking about? Because you kind of have to close that chapter and start on the next. So it's nice to have that to look back at and kind of jog your
Mhm.
memory.
Do you use a specific software to put that in? Is that like an Excel sheet or is it a Word or do you have a different software?
I use Word. I do everything on Word. It's funny because I'm a total Mac. We're like the Apple house with graphic design and all that. But I still can't
Right.
get away from Word. I've tried, so I have to have the Microsoft Suite on my computer. But yeah, I just do everything in Word, and every day I open a new Word document, so I save it as the next day. So like if I start on 1/1/20, the next day I write is 1/2/20, because I've learned the hard way, you don't want to lose a draft. And if you only have one and something happens, it could get corrupted or lost. So that way, if I do lose something, I'm only losing one day's worth of work.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. We've got loads of questions coming in. So if you're okay with it, let's take some questions from attendees.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have a question. What's the benefit of having so many pen names? Um, I think we'll stop there.
Okay. Um, yeah, so we sort of talked about that a little bit. There's a lot of
Mhm.
different schools of thought. Some people think it's better to just have all of your books under one name, because, I think you're not having to spread yourself out, because with 3 pen names, I have to keep them all relevant. I have to be adding something to them at least once a year, or they kind of become irrelevant. Your ranks will drop, and you have to spend a lot more in ads to get them back up there, to get them visual. And also, I feel like if you have readers in that genre, they love you, and they want more. So
Mhm.
that is the downside of having 3 separate pen names. The reason I do it is I feel like it's a lot easier to market.
Mhm.
I feel like you're not saturating the wrong market, because, like I said, a lot of readers only like to read in specific genres. So if I was writing historical romance and YA fantasy, which is maybe something like a Harry Potter book, that reader doesn't want to read my historical fantasy. So if someone follows your author name on Amazon, and every time you have a new release, they get alerted. So if your new release is a historic book, all your other readers in other genres aren't going to care. They're not going to click on it. And in my opinion, that lowers your rank. That makes me not know if my ads, if I'm targeting my ads towards
Mhm.
readers, if they're actually successful or not. Because it might be a great ad, but I'm targeting the wrong reader because I'm targeting all the people that follow me. So
Right.
that is the reason we did it. It was a business and marketing reason. Of course, it would be so much easier to have all of my books under there. And every time I put a release out, it's like, okay, she's got another book, another book, another book. Where now it's a little bit more spread out, because I try to put books out in every pen name I have. But I think that just works better for me. I feel like it's more consistent for my readers. I'm giving them exactly what they want, so they don't get fed
Mhm.
up and unfollow me. I have
Right.
newsletters for each one that's specifically giving them what they want as a reader. And that makes them continue to click, stay subscribed, and interact with you, because you have something in common with them and that's what they enjoy, rather than just throwing books at people that may not, be interested in those books.
Gotcha. Do you ever cross promote between the different across the different newsletters? Um,
I have done that just recently. So my Bella Knight is my more spicy adult paranormal romance.
mhm.
So I kind of leave them out of it. But the other ones are both YA. They're both clean. One is just contemporary and one is fantasy. So I just this year did a box set of my YA fantasy, because it was like I don't even know how many year anniversary. And I thought, okay, let's do a box set. And I put it on sale for 99 cents. So I did let all my contemporary romance readers, my YA readers,
Mhm.
know, because I was like, it is still YA. They might like to try it just because they like my writing style. So that is
Mhm.
the first time that I've done that. But I really try not to, because when you sign up for my newsletter, I tell you, I'm only going to send you books that are in this genre, because this is what I know you want to hear from me.
Right.
So you have to really build trust. And I
Mhm.
don't want to break that trust. So I try to just stick to what I said I'm going to do. I'm going to send you an email every week, and it's always going to be clean and sweet romance.
Right. Because it's much harder if you break that trust to come back from it.
Right. Because it's almost like you're getting spammed at that point, and that
Mhm.
just turns people off.
Right. Exactly. Um, all right. We already answered that one. All right. So we have Mandy wants to know if AMS ads are worth it.
For me, I would say absolutely. 100% of my books are Amazon exclusive. We use KDP. All of them are enrolled in Kindle Unlimited. Um, I've tried going wide. I've tried not doing Kindle Unlimited, and this is just the formula that works for me. It allows me to make a living doing what I love, which I never thought was possible. So I am wholly a subscriber of Amazon ads and KDP. It definitely takes a lot of practice, fine tuning. I would say take as many online courses as you can. There's a lot of free ones out there. Start with those first. And then there's some great paid classes as well. I would say join Facebook author groups because there's specific groups just about how to run AMS ads, even down to your specific genre, because things that work for sci-fi and mystery don't necessarily work for young adult. And young adult is a difficult category because, like I said, it is broad enough that any age group can read it, but a lot of people think it's just for young readers. And then you do have the young readers that want it, but they don't have the buying power. So you have a second step of getting the parent to buy the book for them. So it's definitely worth it, especially in a tough category, because you want to make sure you're targeting the correct people. And it's just a lot of trial and error, and Press Design helps us. Publishing Rocket, you just got to really pinpoint your keywords and optimize the correct campaigns.
Okay. So you brought up an interesting point, the fact that you almost have to market to two different people, right? So your younger audience, they don't have the buying power, it's their parents that do. So do you market to the younger audience or do you market to the parents?
We do a little bit of both, and just see which ads are getting more clicks and then just go with that. And I feel like it changes with different times of the year. In January is always a big selling month because I feel like a lot of kids get gift cards and then they can go on and they have the buying power. Before that, in December, the parents have the buying power because they're buying the gifts for them. So it's as much knowing how to market and understanding advertising and marketing trends as it is having a great product. I mean, you can have the best book in the world, but if you're not dialing in to how to market it and get it in front of the right people, no one's going to see it. And that is the cool part about being indie, because you can try and change things quickly. This isn't working, let's go ahead and change it, you know? So I enjoy it. It's a lot of work. I'm glad I have a publishing partner that helps me, so I can still do the writing while we're still working on the marketing.
Nice. So we have a question about formats. If you publish with CreateSpace, we know that that's paperback. Do you publish as a young adult? Do you find that you publish in paperback, ebook, and have you started going into audio?
Yes, I do all formats. I've even done hardcover for my fantasy, my young adult fantasy, because those readers really want those hardcover books on their shelves. Me not excluded. I have a whole room of just like my favorite books. Even though I have them on my ebook and I read them on my Kindle, I want the physical copy on my shelf. So I would say 99% of the time I always do a paperback. And that is cool because that can be released separately of your Kindle. You can actually release that early, and that way you have the early reviews on that before your Kindle goes live. So they're the same, they're linked together, but they are separate ISBN, ASIN. So I like that. And actually I sell a lot more paperbacks than I would expect. So if you're going to format it, we use Vellum for formatting, which is absolutely worth its weight in gold to buy that program, because you just import your doc and decide how pretty you want the chapter headings to look and press a button and it's ready to upload. So before that, we were trying to like manually doing it, and I'm so happy we have Vellum. But yeah, we've done all the formats, and I have done quite a few audiobooks through ACX. I'm working on getting my entire Bella Knight paranormal romance series done. The narrator is on the last book now, so as soon as they're ready, we upload them. So the first 5 are up there. I had the first one done of my Geneva Summer series, and I absolutely love it. hoping to get the rest done. But I myself am a huge audiobook listener, so
Mhm.
my goal would definitely be to have all of my books on audio.
Good. Do you find that with the young adult, are you still seeing the engagement with the audiobook?
I'm not sure. That's why I did the I haven't done that yet. I've done the paranormal romance because I know that that is a huge
Right.
genre in audio. I did the young adult fantasy because I feel like you can get the Harry Potter and Percy Jackson Hunger Games readers.
Hmm.
But contemporary YA, I'm not sure. The books are a lot shorter and sweeter.
Hmm.
I listen to those books on audio because 99% of the time I don't really have time to sit down and read, but I'll pop in an audiobook when I'm driving or I might have my AirPods in and I'm walking around. So I'll listen to any genre on there. And there are a lot to choose from, but I don't know, since I don't have mine up there yet, if
Right.
it's going to sell as well as those other genres.
Gotcha. Um, so we have a question about when you're plotting, do you do that in Word as well?
I do everything in Word. My poor computer has like 9 million Word documents and folders for every single one.
Okay. We have a question about how you built up your newsletter subscribers, and I think that's a question we get frequently. Was it an organic build? Was it because of links in books? How did you build that?
A little bit of both organic and links in the back of the book. When like I said when we were first talking, is I had one when I first started. I thought, okay, I just need to get as many subscribers as I can. So I did a lot of like group promotion giveaways. If you sign up for the newsletter, you're entered to win this book, which built my list up really quickly, but I wasn't getting any engagement. And so you're paying a lot to have that size of a list and you're not getting a lot out of it. So that's kind of what discouraged me from doing a lot with it. But after a few conferences that I'd gone to and a couple other authors that I spoke to about how they ran theirs and how it really helped them, I was like, okay, I need to get back into this. And so I pretty much started from scratch. I sent an email out to everyone on my list and said, okay, I'm changing, I'm revamping. And this was at the same time I basically rebranded and made the 3
Hmm.
pen names. And I said, if you want to stay on this list, press this button and you'll stay on it. If not, you'll be removed. And so I gave them 2 chances. And then that way, like 90% of the list dropped off. And it's funny because that 10% that stayed, those are my diehard from the beginning. Most of them are in my beta group and Facebook group. And it's great because I feel like they're family at this point. Um, but I
Right.
read a lot of books. Newsletter Ninja, that one was really helpful. I mean, there is a million things you can do to have a successful newsletter. For me, I really just picked 3 to concentrate on. I'd rather do 3 things well than like try 100 and just do what I
Hmm.
could because there is only so much time you can devote to everything because the primary focus has to be writing, and then your time left over is for everything else. So
Hmm.
yeah, I really have spent a lot of time setting up automations. So if you come to my newsletter from the back of a book, you get a certain email as opposed to someone who signs
Hmm.
up just from online. Because to entice people to get to my newsletter, if they finish one of my books, I usually have extended content. So it'll say see deleted scenes or extended epilogue. Click this link, you'll be signed up to my newsletter, and then you'll get this part of the book for free. Um,
Hmm.
and it is an incentive, but they are also getting something. So I feel like I always want to give
Right.
when you get. And that's the whole part about, building that trust and rapport with your readers. And then that way they're not just signing up for something free and then just unsubscribing because, you want people that
Hmm.
want to be there. So those are the
Right.
things that I've really focused on.
Okay. Um, so we have a couple of questions about what you did before you became a writer and then how you figured out you could do this full time. And I think we touched on it a little bit. Let's go into that a little bit more.
Okay. My gosh, I did a lot of things before I was a writer. I have an English degree from the University of Central Florida. Um, I think I always knew somewhere deep down that I wanted to be a writer. I say I'm a born storyteller. even from a little kid, I was just making stuff up. I love make believe and fantasy, and I think I'm just a big kid at heart. So I wanted to do it, but I don't think I had the courage, because until indie authors and self-publishing became something of a platform that was accessible to everyone, authors were on like rock star level to me. They weren't people you would meet or get to talk to and pick their brain, you know? So that's like saying, well, yeah, I want to be a rock star or a movie star. Like that is how I felt about it. Like I like to do it, but what makes me think that I can, or I'm good enough to put that out in the world? It takes a lot of courage that first time, for sure. So like I said, I've always been very creative. I have a background in art. I have also a degree in criminal justice. I have all kinds of weird traits that I studied before I actually found the path to becoming a writer. But the job that I did right before going into writing was I worked in as a professional buyer, home stager, so a lot of like home decor and decorating. I just love that. I love anything that lets me be creative, and I did that for 12 years. And the way that I got my writing fix was through reading at that point. And so I would read every day on my lunch break. That was my hour of time to myself where I still got to kind of, you know, feed that passion. And then it was in 2012, I was pregnant, so I had a lot more downtime to read. And I just devoured a bunch of great epic fantasy series. Like I just read all of Harry Potter. I think I was like the last person in the world to find Harry Potter, and Twilight and Hunger Games. And I just had this like thirst for more. And I've definitely prescribed to the philosophy of if you can't find what you want, make what you want. And I thought, why shouldn't that apply to books as well? I think Judy Blume even said that, you know, if you can't find the book you want to read, write the book you want to read. So that's what I did. I sat down, and instead of reading on my lunch break, I started writing my Geneva Summer series. And I literally sat down and wrote the prologue. That is the first page of that book. Like it just poured out of me. I didn't even know what I was going to write. So it was just like this voice wanted her story told. And I thought at that moment how cool that was. And I kind of got that fire lit again, like, okay, maybe I can do this. And then I also thought, this is the time, because what a cool legacy to leave for my son, to have this book series that we could share together. So that is really what inspired me to take that leap and have the courage to write the book. And then, like I said, my husband is the one that once, you know, I finally admitted that I wrote a book and shared it with him, he, you know, brought it to fruition, and it is what it is now. But it wasn't until my son unfortunately passed away in 2013. And that was that aha moment that I think a lot of writers, entrepreneurs, people that just, you know, take that leap have. Because for me, it made me realize how short life is, and that I want to spend mine doing what I'm passionate about. And writing just brought so much joy into my life. I thought, why not share that joy with the world? So, you know, that is really the leaping off point for me, because it was a very difficult time in my life. And I think without writing, I never would have made it through, because that was the light in the darkness. You know, that was my escape. And I wrote the rest of the series and thought, okay, this is what I want to do. I don't want to have a fallback plan. So we literally sold our house, quit my job, and we moved to the city we'd always wanted to live in, because we wanted to be all in. And that's crazy for some people. But for me, it's what I had to do. And I'm so glad I did it. And I speak about this a lot, and I always tell people, absolutely leap. Like, follow your dreams, follow your heart, go all in, because you'll never regret it. You might regret not trying. So I wholeheartedly believe that it was the right decision.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that personal story with us. And I'm terribly sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So we've got a couple more questions about ads. And without going into too much detail, I think one of the questions that we get frequently is, how do you determine a budget for your ad campaigns? And I think that changes a little bit, you know, throughout the years. Some people start small and start building and just reinvesting what their, a certain amount of their earnings. How do you gauge what you're spending on your or budgeting for your ads?
Yeah, that is very difficult, and it's a scale that changes. Like I said, we start really small with a pre-order because you are getting clicks, but you're spending money before you can earn because you don't
Hmm.
get that money until the purchase goes through. So we scale up the closer we get to the release, and then once those earnings are coming in, that gives us more to invest into the ads. It's hard with so many books
Hmm.
because I have like I think 46, so you have to spread that reinvestment in ads out over all of the books.
Hmm.
And it is a balance because the books that are performing really well, they're usually the newer books. Or, I have the Practice Boyfriend is just my best performer. It outsells
Hmm.
everything. You almost don't even have to advertise it. But I do
Right.
continue to do that because I don't want to take it for granted. It is a bestseller, so I want to keep it up there. So
Hmm.
you have to judge, okay, this one is up here, so we need to keep it up there versus some that have been released 5 years ago, they naturally fall lower. But you don't want them to go so far, so you have to kind of like the ones in the middle get the middle amount, the ones in the top get the less, and the ones in the bottom get the most. But also sometimes we flip flop that because um, the ones that are up high, sometimes it pays better to keep them up high
Hmm.
because if it's the first in series, that trickles through the whole line of your books because that's the point of a series. You want the sell through. So
Hmm.
we've gone even as far to see, the percentage of people that buy book one, how many of them read all the way through book 11. And then that
Hmm.
will give us a percentage of how much money to spend on each book. Um, so it's a lot. And that's why I said I'm really glad that I have a partner in my publishing that is, so in tune with marketing because that is definitely not my strong suit. If it wasn't for having him, I would definitely probably have to outsource um,
Hmm.
my ads campaigns, which you can do. I know a lot of authors do that, and I
Hmm.
think to me it would probably be worth it because you want it done right, and sometimes it's worth paying for having your time back to invest that in your writing rather than trying to figure out this math equation.
Right. Right. Um, so you mentioned the fact that your husband does your covers. Now, does he get full creative control or do you get a
No,
choice or?
he says I am his worst customer because I'm like over his shoulder, like, no, could you make her hair this color? Can you move that there? And so I'm the worst for him. But it's funny because I really like to have my covers done before I write the books because if the people are on the cover, it kind of puts them in my head and I'm writing them and it just makes my job a little bit easier. But sometimes I've written the book first and that's when we argue over the
Mhm.
cover because I have an idea in my head and usually I'll make him do what I think I want done. And then I'll say, okay, now you do one, just as what you think. And I usually, I don't know, 90% of the time go with his because I'm like, yeah, that's better because he has the eye for that, and I think it's totally worth paying a professional to do it because sometimes
Mhm.
you're too close to it, like you think you know what you want because you know the story and the characters, but you need to sell what is on trend with your genre,
Mhm.
something that is eye catching, something that shows up when it's this tiny little pixel among a bunch of other books. So it really pays to have a professional help you with that. Um, I've gotten better because of doing so many books with him, and I use a program called BookBrush, where sometimes it'll help you do covers, teasers, Facebook ad
Mhm.
graphics, all that kind of stuff. So I'll sometimes take a crack at the cover and send that to him so he can see what I'm thinking, but then he still does it, you know, the better way, basically. But we do spend a lot of time, and I highly recommend looking at all the books in your genre, looking at the ones that are successful. Check out the top 20 if that's where your book is hoping to be. And you'll notice that a majority of those covers have a lot in common because there is a
Mhm.
formula that works. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be the prettiest cover that makes your heart happy because it fits the book. It has to be one that a reader will click on. So, you have to have that fine balance between the creative and the marketing side.
So do you have a brand look that you have across all of your genres and all of your pen names, or do you have one for each pen name?
I have one for each pen name. So
Mhm.
my Christina Benjamin is my primary pen name, and I have books within different genres that are all still clean romance. Some of them are YA, some of them are billionaire, some of
Mhm.
them are just new adult. So we try to keep the same branding with
Mhm.
my name on the cover, that sort of thing. But the covers are all different. If they're within a series, they're definitely all the same. I feel like if you looked at them as a whole, you could say, yes, this all belongs to this author's brand. And we've done the same thing with the other books. But if you're targeting the successful books in that genre, that's why I really felt we had to have different pen names because the covers look so different. Because like my YA fantasy, they look more like a Percy Jackson cover. And we actually
Okay.
had those commissioned because it is an illustration, and my husband doesn't do that. He
Mhm.
just does graphic design. So we found an
Mhm.
artist that would draw the characters and the covers because that's what all of those books in that genre have. And so to be successful and to compete with those successful books, you have to, be part of that.
Mhm. Good. Um, Trying to see if we've got one more question because we're almost out of time. This is a good question. Sue wants to know if you ever do versions for free. So do you ever do free book promotions?
Yeah. I use my Kindle Countdown, KDP Free Days all the time. If you're on my newsletter that comes out every week, the first part of it is always author news. I tell you what I'm working on, my new work in progress, if I've been traveling somewhere crazy to get inspirations for writing. The second part is book news, and that is
Mhm.
where I tell you if I have a book promotion, like, my normal price is maybe like $5.99. It's on sale for 99 cents, or it's on sale for free. Um, because for readers that don't know this, like every 30 days, you renew your book in the KDP program, or every 90 days, sorry. And within
Yeah.
that 90-day period, you can give the book away for free for a certain amount of time. You can discount it for a certain amount of time. So I always try to do that. Why not do it? I feel like
Mhm.
it helps breathe new life into the back series. It helps readers find your books that maybe might not have seen them before. And I always put that in my newsletter because you're there to read my books. So I want you to read them, whether I'm giving them away for free or you're buying them. And that's why I have them in Kindle Unlimited, because a lot of the Kindle Unlimited people can
Mhm.
read them for free with Kindle Unlimited.
Right.
And also, when you join my newsletter, you get a free book from me. It's not published anywhere. It's just my free magnet. It's a really cute story. It's loosely based on the story of how I met my husband in college. So it was fun to write.
Oh,
And I just love sharing it because, all of my books have that book boyfriend, sweet romance vibe. So I think that's a good taste. I want to give you something to
mhm.
see if you like it before I'm going to ask you to buy something. So yeah, and also at the very end of my newsletter, you see all my books and all of my free books. So there's a lot of like free prequels, extended
Mhm.
epilogues, stuff like that. I do a lot of free books.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we're out of time. It flew by this morning. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. And for everyone who stuck with us, the recording will be posted to Facebook this evening. And then tomorrow you'll get a follow-up email with the link to the recording if you're not on our YouTube channel and the link to upcoming sessions. But definitely, Christina, thank you so much for sharing all of this wonderful, all of your wisdom with us. It's great, great amount of information. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to everyone, happy publishing.